and for their contribution in terms of broadening what we hope was a general interest to you, but also your response to that, which is equally important.
The ability to have somebody who is kind of epitomizes what you think your country stands for has always been a major ambition.
It's official. Princess Anne has finally spoken out, and the coronation date for William and Catherine is no longer a secret. Behind closed doors and centuries of silence, a quiet shift has begun. King Charles is stepping back, and the crown is moving forward. But it's not the press or palace aides leading the transition. It's Anne, the sister, the witness, the one who's seen it all. With the monarchy's future hanging in the balance, she's the one holding the truth. And now, the date is set. The new reign is coming, whether the world is ready or not. It didn't begin with headlines. There was no press release, no palace statement, no formal address. It began, as most royal shifts do, with silence. A silence that settled over the halls of Windsor like fog, subtle but impossible to ignore for those who knew what to look for. Princess Anne did. She always has. While the rest of the world speculated about the king's health and the couple poised to take the throne, Anne had already sensed a change in the air. Not from gossip or speculation, but from the way people moved, the way rooms felt when Charles entered, and the way William had started speaking with more weight behind his words. There was something different now, a transition that hadn't yet been named but had already begun. The first true sign arrived not in the spotlight, but in the form of a folded note, slipped quietly beneath Anne's door at dusk. The handwriting was unmistakable. Charles. There was no royal seal, no official stationery. Just a single line. Clarence House. Tomorrow? Private. No signature. None needed. Anne showed up early. The room was bare, deliberately so. No aides, no formalities, just 3 chairs and decades of unspoken understanding. Charles sat quietly. William stood, hands clasped behind his back, eyes fixed on the window. For a long while, no one spoke. And then Charles broke the silence. Not with a command, but with a confession. The crown must move, while I can still guide it. He didn't say the word abdication. He didn't need to. The message was clear. This wasn't about weakness. It was about timing. Anne listened. She always listens, but this time her breath caught just slightly. William remained composed, but even in his stillness, something in him shifted. Not fear, not doubt, readiness. That evening, Anne opened her leather-bound diary, the one she'd carried with her for decades, and wrote a single line in ink. He's stepping aside. She paused. Let the weight of the words settle. Then she underlined them, twice. The next day, the palace functioned like any other. Staff bustled through corridors. Tourists gathered at the gates. The press speculated about fashion and protocol. But behind those walls, a new chapter had quietly begun. And Anne, the monarchy's most steadfast figure, was the only one who had seen the first page turn. She watched William with new eyes now. Not as the heir, but as the man preparing to wear the crown. And Catherine, though absent from that morning's meeting, was already part of the plan. Anne knew that. Everyone would know soon enough. That night, before closing her diary, she wrote one more sentence. The crown is already moving. No ceremony, no fanfare, just the quiet shifting of centuries-old power. And Anne, as always, was the first to feel it. It was a decision that would ripple through generations, not because it was loud or dramatic, but because it was so quiet, so deliberate, so final. For months, the palace had been spinning stories. King Charles was recovering, resting, refocusing, each word carefully chosen. But behind those softened headlines, something irreversible had already been set in motion. And it wasn't illness that forced it, it was inevitability. Charles, a man who waited over 70 years to take the throne, had now spent less than 3 in power. But even in that brief reign, he seemed to realize something Anne had suspected for years. The future of the monarchy doesn't belong to age, it belongs to timing. And his was running out. The coronation of William and Catherine wasn't supposed to happen this soon. There were plans, long-term, slow-moving, meticulously mapped. But the world wasn't waiting. Public favor had shifted. The royal brand had changed. And the new generation wasn't just more photogenic, they were more relevant. William and Kate didn't need to claim the throne. The throne was coming to them. When Charles called the second meeting, this time at Balmoral, it was no longer a conversation. It was an announcement. Anne was there again, along with a very small circle of senior advisors. The air was thinner that day, not from the weather, from what was coming. "I will not outstay the crown," Charles said, "nor will I force it to wait on me." No one dared respond immediately, not even Anne. He continued, "The date has been chosen, quietly, deliberately. It will be announced when the time is right." That was the first moment Anne realized this wasn't just a gradual handover. It was a coronation on Charles's terms, a passing of the torch before the fire grew too dim. Controlled, clean, royal. The irony, of course, wasn't lost on her. The man who spent decades waiting to be king would now be the one to decide when to stop. And in doing so, he was rewriting tradition. Again. William didn't speak much during that meeting, but his silence wasn't a weakness. It was resolve. And the way he placed his hand on the back of Anne's chair before leaving, it wasn't accidental. It was a message, a silent thank you, a sign of what was to come. The palace still hasn't publicly confirmed the date, but those closest to the matter, Anne, William, and now Catherine, know it's locked in, inked into the royal calendar. Quiet for now, but not for long, because this time the crown isn't reacting to pressure, it's preparing for legacy. And no one saw it coming. Not like this. She's never been the loudest royal. No dramatic interviews, no attention-grabbing headlines, no scandals, memoirs, or documentaries. But behind palace gates, Princess Anne has always been the monarchy's most powerful constant. And now, she's finally becoming its quiet architect. For years, the public underestimated Anne's role. She wasn't next in line. She wasn't part of the glamorous couple drawing camera flashes, but those who truly understood the royal machine knew exactly where she stood. At the core, the one the others leaned on, the one who kept the tradition alive when everyone else was bending under pressure. While the spotlight often drifted to Charles, to Diana, to Camilla, and then to William and Catherine, Anne never moved. She showed up, every single time. Hundreds of engagements, relentless diplomacy, fierce privacy. She didn't need to tell the world what she thought, because the palace already knew. And now, that same quiet strength has made her essential to the most delicate moment of transition in decades. Sources close to the royal household say Anne was involved in nearly every early discussion about succession, not as an instigator, but as a stabilizer. It was Anne who reminded Charles that waiting too long could weaken public confidence. It was Anne who spoke directly to William about timing, not ambition, being the key to a successful monarchy. And it was Anne who urged Catherine to step fully into her new role, not as consort in waiting, but as queen in training. She never demanded authority. She earned it. And unlike others in the family, Anne didn't have to navigate loyalty wars. She wasn't caught between factions. She had only one allegiance, the crown itself. Not to a person, but to an idea. That's why, when Charles hinted at stepping back, it wasn't a leak or a scandal that broke the news. It was Anne's presence at private meetings. Her attendance alone was confirmation that things were shifting. Because Anne doesn't attend unless it matters. Those closest to her say she was the first to see the writing on the wall, that Charles's reign, while dignified, wasn't built for longevity, and that the next chapter had to begin not with noise, but with intent. In a world of royal drama, Anne is the rare figure who doesn't flinch. She doesn't blink. And now, she's the one guiding the crown toward its next chapter. Not with speeches or titles, but with presence. It's no coincidence she's speaking now. When Princess Anne breaks her silence, it's never casual. It's strategic, because in a family full of voices, she's the one people actually listen to. For years, they were the golden couple, the fresh faces of a centuries-old monarchy, smiling on balconies, waving at crowds, quietly raising their children under the shadow of the crown. But now, William and Catherine aren't just symbols of the future. They are the future. And with the coronation date now confirmed behind palace walls, everything has changed. Sources say this decision wasn't rushed. It wasn't theatrical. It was deliberate, calculated down to the last detail. Charles may still hold the title of king, but the power dynamic inside the palace has already shifted. Decisions once run through Clarence House now pass through Kensington. And the people adjusting fastest? William and Kate. It started with roles, quiet ones. Catherine began taking on more senior duties. William increased his meetings with key advisors. They weren't just smiling for the cameras, they were learning, observing, preparing for exactly this moment. Behind closed doors, insiders say the couple has been laser-focused on what their version of monarchy will look like. And they're not following Charles's template. This won't be a continuation. It'll be a transformation, one rooted in modern relevance, digital presence, and direct community connection. The pageantry will stay, but the tone is already changing. You can see it in how they interact with the press, how they frame causes, how they make room for their children in the narrative, not as heirs under pressure, but as kids with normal lives. That's not accidental. It's a strategy. And while Catherine may wear the tiaras, she's not just the consort, she's the co-pilot. She's reportedly played a major role in shaping the tone of the coronation event, insisting it reflect a more inclusive, diverse, and understated ceremony. Gone are the days of grandeur for grandeur's sake. This coronation will look and feel different, because the people stepping into power know the world is different. William, for his part, has embraced a model of kingship less about dominance and more about service. He knows the institution doesn't command the same reverence it once did. Respect, in this era, has to be earned, not inherited. And that's exactly what he's been preparing to do. But make no mistake, this isn't just about duty, it's about legacy. For William and Catherine, this coronation isn't the end of a chapter. It's the start of their reign, unofficial in title, but very real in influence. And with Anne's backing and Charles's quiet retreat, the path has been cleared. They're not waiting to be crowned, they're already leading. For weeks, speculation swirled. Was there a date? Was it real? Was it even official? Now we know the coronation date for William and Catherine has been chosen. And it wasn't just picked at random. It was engineered. Behind palace gates, this decision took months of negotiations, family briefings, and constitutional consultation. Not only because it signals a passing of the torch, but because of who's still holding it. Charles is still king, and as long as he is, every step forward had to be taken with extreme care. That's where Princess Anne came in. According to insiders, Anne served as both the stabilizer and the negotiator. She was the one who reportedly pushed for a date that would respect Charles's dignity, while also signaling the shift that everyone, from staff to sovereigns, knows is already underway. Anne didn't want spectacle. She wanted clarity, and now, with a confirmed date quietly circled on the palace calendar, that clarity is here. The choice of date wasn't just ceremonial, it was symbolic. It falls near key anniversaries in William's life, a subtle reminder that this moment is about continuity, not just change. A new era that still honors the one before it. More importantly, the timing avoids any major global or political distractions. The monarchy doesn't want to compete with elections, major events, or global crises. This moment had to stand alone. A clean handover, not a media frenzy. That's why the official announcement has been delayed. They want the world's eyes when they're ready, not before. But those close to the family say the real reason for the tight control is emotional. Charles's health has been at the center of royal speculation for months. While palace statements remain vague, his visible absence from key events speaks volumes. And while the coronation of William and Catherine doesn't mean abdication, it does mean preparation. A monarchy doesn't pivot overnight. It transitions in stages, and this date is one of those stages. Still, the decision has stirred debate. Some insiders questioned whether it was too soon. Others worried about Charles's public image, but Anne reportedly held firm. She's said to have argued that postponing would only create confusion, or worse, suspicion. The public needs stability, and the crown needs clarity. So, the date was set, not announced, not celebrated, just quietly agreed upon. A private moment marking a very public shift. And in that silence, a new era begins. No coronation decision, no matter how strategic or symbolic, happens without brushing up against one name: Camilla. The Queen Consort has long been a lightning rod for royal controversy, but in recent months, her influence has shifted, not just diminished, redirected. Sources say Camilla was kept at a distance from the coronation planning process, not excluded outright, but sidelined. A move that, in royal terms, says everything. Because for decades, Camilla fought to be accepted by the public, the press, and the palace. And with Charles on the throne, she finally arrived. But now, with William and Catherine preparing to step forward, Camilla's presence is increasingly seen as part of the past, not the future. Behind closed doors, it's Anne who reportedly drew that line. The relationship between Anne and Camilla has always been delicate, civil, yes, but not close. And with the stakes this high, Anne didn't want blurred allegiances. She wanted clear lanes. William and Catherine are the future, and anyone seen as a symbol of old wounds, past scandals, or lingering public skepticism needed to be out of frame. Camilla, perhaps sensing this shift, has taken a quieter role lately. Fewer public outings, a more restrained tone in her official duties. Even her appearances alongside Charles have become noticeably less frequent. It's as if she's receding from the spotlight, not vanishing, but yielding. And yet, that silence speaks. Some insiders claim Camilla wasn't entirely pleased with the coronation date decision, not because of the timing itself, but because of the message it sends, that the future is moving forward without her, that the Windsor brand is being repositioned around youth, duty, and legacy, around William and Catherine. Camilla may still hold the title of Queen Consort, but her influence is clearly waning. This wasn't a dramatic exile, it was a quiet repositioning. Anne saw what the monarchy needed: clarity, renewal, and forward focus, and that meant gently moving Camilla out of the spotlight. The coronation wasn't just about a date, it was about tone, symbolism, and power. Anne made sure it signaled a passing of the torch, and while Camilla remains part of the royal structure, her days as a central figure are fading. The message is clear. The future wears a different face, and it's not hers. Anne, according to multiple sources, made that case directly to Charles. She reportedly emphasized that for the monarchy to survive and thrive, it must shed some of the baggage of the past. The monarchy's power has always rested on its ability to evolve without losing its identity. And for that to happen, the focus had to shift entirely to the next generation, which meant stepping around and away from Camilla. Of course, no official statements confirm this. Camilla remains Queen Consort. She still has public duties, charitable initiatives, and a seat beside the king. But her influence in this chapter of royal transition, that's been quietly diminished, not with scandal, not with headlines, but with strategy. And Anne? She's the one who orchestrated it. The coronation date may have been set in ink, but the power shift behind it, that was written long before. While most eyes are on William as the future king, insiders say it's Catherine, Princess of Wales, who's quietly shaping what that future looks like. From the very beginning, Kate understood the weight of the crown. Not just the glamour or the history, but the expectation. And over the years, she's earned something few in the royal circle ever managed to hold: near universal public trust. So, when talks around the coronation began, it wasn't just about calendars and ceremonial logistics. It was about tone, about symbolism, about what kind of monarchy William and Catherine would inherit and what kind they'd leave behind. And according to those close to the palace, Kate was deeply involved, not in the loud, headline-making way some royals operate, but with precision, purpose. She reportedly worked alongside Princess Anne to shape the vision of the coronation, ensuring it didn't feel like a repeat of Charles and Camilla's ceremony, but a signal of something new, a clean slate. Sources say Catherine pushed for certain elements to be modernized: shorter processions, less pomp, more family visibility. She wanted the event to feel connected to the people, not a performance above them. And that was no accident. Kate's public image is her greatest asset. She knows that, and she protects it fiercely. But more than that, she understands how to use it, especially in times of royal transition. Behind the scenes, insiders describe her as calm, deliberate, and completely aligned with Anne. The two women, despite their generational gap, reportedly share a sharp sense of duty and a deep belief in earned respect, not assumed entitlement. It's also no coincidence that during this time, William and Kate began ramping up their public engagements, visiting communities, supporting mental health campaigns, taking their children on carefully selected appearances. It's part of a broader strategy, one Catherine is said to be leading, to rebrand the royal family as a modern institution rooted in service, not spectacle. And that's precisely what makes Catherine so effective. Her leadership isn't declared. It's demonstrated. Every detail she influences is rooted in subtlety, yet the impact is undeniable. Royal observers note how smoothly plans have unfolded, free from the drama or leaks that once plagued palace events. That's no accident. It's control, the kind that's earned behind the scenes. And while some underestimate her quiet role, those within the firm know better. Catherine is redefining royal influence, not by changing the system loudly, but by shifting its center of gravity. And with each move, she proves the monarchy's future is already in motion, and her influence didn't stop at planning. Several sources say Catherine was the reason certain family members were not included in coronation-related duties, not as a punishment, but as a way to keep the spotlight focused on the future, not the drama of the past. Her fingerprints are everywhere, and yet she never once took the mic. That's the Catherine effect. Where others seek power with noise, she moves with silence and still shapes everything. As one former palace staffer reportedly put it, she doesn't need to sit on the throne to lead. She already is. And come Coronation Day, every detail, every choice will quietly carry her signature. The moment whispers of William and Catherine's coronation date began circulating, and Anne's involvement was confirmed, the media frenzy exploded. Front pages across the UK ran with speculation, while tabloids scrambled for inside sources and secret details. But this wasn't just your average royal news cycle. This was something bigger, a shift in tone, a change in narrative. For the public, the idea of William and Catherine stepping into their new roles didn't come as a shock. It came as a relief. After years of turmoil, the Megxit fallout, the Andrew scandal, Charles and Camilla's uphill public battle, royal watchers were tired. The firm's image had taken hit after hit, and suddenly, the idea of a clean transition, led by a well-respected couple and silently backed by Princess Anne, felt right. Social media lit up. The hashtags trended instantly, not with outrage, not with gossip, but with something rarely seen in recent royal coverage: optimism. But that hope came with conditions and expectations. The public wasn't simply handing over blind loyalty, they were watching closely. Every move William and Catherine made was dissected, every appearance scrutinized. And still, they held steady. No scandals, no drama, just quiet consistency. It was the kind of leadership many felt had been missing, not just from the monarchy, but from the broader national conversation. The coronation date wasn't just symbolic, it became a countdown, not to another royal event, but to a new beginning. And with Anne's unwavering presence reinforcing that stability, the stage was set. This wasn't just the start of a reign, it was the start of a redefinition. People weren't just curious about the date, they were excited. Posts praising Anne's no-nonsense approval, Catherine's graceful leadership, and William's steady hand spread like wildfire. It was a rare moment where tradition and modernity seemed to align, where the British public, notoriously critical of their royals, found a reason to believe again. But not everyone was clapping. Some media outlets tried to stir the pot, pointing fingers at the quiet ousting of King Charles and suggesting Camilla had been blindsided. Others painted Anne's involvement as a power play, not support. And a handful of royal biographers went on record questioning the legitimacy of the process. Still, those narratives didn't stick. Why? Because for once, the palace didn't fight back. There were no press briefings, no sources denying claims, just silence, which, in royal terms, is its own kind of statement. And it worked. The storm came, but it didn't rattle the new foundation being built. Instead, it clarified the stakes. The coronation isn't just a date, it's a message, a resetting of the public relationship with the monarchy. One built not on spectacle, but on sincerity. Even among critics, there was acknowledgement. If the crown was to have any future, it would be with William and Catherine. Not because they were born into it, but because they earned it. And at the heart of that public shift was something no amount of press spin could manufacture: trust. Not just in the couple themselves, but in the idea that the institution could actually change. Anne's quiet endorsement, Catherine's invisible influence, William's steady presence. Together, they sparked something the monarchy hadn't seen in years: hope. And now that the public has had a taste of that future, there may be no going back. With Princess Anne's quiet confirmation and the coronation date for William and Catherine now looming, the question isn't just what happens next. It's what this moment actually means for the monarchy itself. Because, make no mistake, this isn't just a ceremonial change. This is a pivot point, a crossroads between what the monarchy used to be and what it has to become. For decades, the British royal family has been walking a tightrope between tradition and relevance, between duty and drama, between public admiration and public exhaustion. The scandals, the departures, the deepening generational divides, they've all left cracks in the crown's foundation. But this coronation, shaped not by Charles, but by Anne and accepted by William and Catherine, is the first real sign that the institution is finally evolving on its own terms. Anne's role is especially symbolic. She isn't flashy, she doesn't chase headlines, but her word carries weight. She represents the old guard, the generation forged in discipline, service, and silence. For her to lend quiet approval to a new era says more than any press release ever could. It tells us that this transition isn't about pushing people out. It's about building something sustainable, something that honors the past without being trapped by it. And William and Catherine, they aren't stepping into the spotlight for vanity. They're doing it for continuity, for clarity, for the country. Their reign, when it begins, will have to walk an impossible line, being both deeply royal and deeply modern. Tradition without arrogance, visibility without overexposure, leadership without scandal. And oddly enough, Anne's involvement might be the key to pulling that off, because if she, of all people, sees the value in them, the public, and even the skeptics inside the palace, may finally do the same. This moment also sends a message to the rest of the royal family: adapt or become irrelevant. The crown no longer guarantees loyalty or admiration. It has to be earned every single day, through behavior, choices, and a commitment to something bigger than image. If this coronation proceeds as expected, it won't just be about placing a crown on new heads, it'll be about realignment. A monarchy no longer centered around ego, but around purpose. And that could change everything, because for the first time in a long time, the future of the royal family doesn't feel uncertain. It feels intentional, not rushed, not forced, but chosen by the public, by the players involved, and maybe most importantly, by those who've stayed silent until it mattered most. And with that silence now broken, the path forward is clear. So now we know. Princess Anne has spoken, the date is set, and history is already shifting beneath our feet. This wasn't just a quiet nod from a royal elder. It was a signal, a passing of the torch not with pomp, but with purpose. William and Catherine aren't just next in line. They're the line, the future. And Anne's quiet endorsement may be the most powerful move yet, because it tells the world this transition isn't coming. It's here. The crown is changing hands, not in chaos, but with clarity. And when the day arrives, it won't just be a coronation, it'll be a recalibration of what royalty really means in the modern world. The monarchy is moving forward, and this time, it's doing it with its eyes wide open. If you thought this chapter in royal history was dramatic, just wait. The palace doors are opening wider than ever, and what's coming next might just rewrite everything we thought we knew. So don't miss what's ahead. Subscribe now, turn on notifications, and join us as we uncover the real stories behind the crown, the alliances, the power plays, and the secrets still waiting to surface.